Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. So today we are talking about something I've been thinking about a lot lately, overthinking.
I think something you've been overthinking about a lot
I've been
lately.
overthinking about overthinking.
Yes. Before we overthink this intro, we should probably let people know that we have a guest producer on the show today, Krystal. Krystal Tubbs, how are you, Krystal?
Doing well. How are you? Trying not to overthink this.
Awesome.
There we go.
Thank you
Well,
very
we'll
much.
help you. We'll help you with that.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yes.
So Glenn, tell us a little bit about why you wanted to pick overthinking as a topic and some of the issues that people can get into when they're thinking too much about a particular subject.
Well, because everybody does it, including me. So it's come up. I think people have mentioned it to me. Like, you should do a podcast on overthinking. So, our pre-production meetings, that's about how extensive they are.
Yes.
So we're doing it. So I mean, overthinking really is, we're stuck in our brain. We're stuck in our brain all the time. So of course we're going to be overthinking things and looking. I think one of the biggest reasons we do that is because we're always looking for the answer. Like our brain, as soon as our brain has a problem, it wants the answer. So it starts heading in that direction, and it's so focused on it that oftentimes we don't pause for the middle period, which is gathering the actual information necessary to come to the conclusion. So we don't really have the information. If we have enough information to come to the conclusion that we need to come to, usually it's very clear. So I think what we're supposed to be doing, without overthinking it, I think what we're supposed to be doing is just gathering information. And then as you gather it, it just stacks and stacks and stacks. And one side becomes glaringly obvious a lot of times. Not every time, of course, but in most situations, one time becomes glaringly obvious that that's the right choice. And we just don't take the time to do that. We're always, and if we do get any more information, we're just like, oh, is this it? Yeah. Okay. So, I have one more piece. Let's compare everything and see if I can come to the conclusion, because I have to come to the conclusion, because once I come to the conclusion, then I'll be peaceful, because I'll have come to the conclusion. I'll be happy. It's that unconscious putting happiness outside of ourselves. Once I figure this out, then I'll be happy. Then I can rest. And of course, there's just something else to think about after that. but I think that's one of the main things that our brain does, is it's really trying for that conclusion. And so it just chases it 90 miles an hour. And if we're living unconsciously and we're not slowing down enough to do that middle piece of gathering the information, then it's just spinning. So what do you guys think about that? What do you think about that, Krystal? Let me put you on the spot, Krystal.
Oh, that's fine. I guess the question that popped up for me is, how can we make sure we're slowing down enough to kind of receive the right information to come to the best conclusion?
Well, and it's just basically what you said. It's slowing down enough. It's living consciously. This is why, there's so much overlap in spiritual talk. And I always say that. And I always say that it comes down to living consciously. Almost everything that I teach and everybody else teaches, this is why mindfulness is so popular and consciousness is so popular, because it's the basis for everything else. If we slow down and live on purpose and pay attention to what we're actually doing and going, have thought process, learning tools like this, where we go, okay, my brain, the way it works is it's just going to be trying to jump to the conclusion as fast as possible. So what I need to do is gather information first. So, usually it's helpful to take the conclusion off the table, to remind yourself, I'm not looking for the conclusion. I'm not trying to figure out the answer. I'm not going, no matter, even if I see the answer, I'm not even going to acknowledge it for the next week while I gather information. And at the end of the week, I will look at the information and see if I have enough information to come to a conclusion. But otherwise, it's just like, oh, I'll gather information. Oh, did I get enough yet? And it jumps right back to the solution finding. So it's slowing down and living consciously, actually taking the time to do that middle step of gathering information.
As someone who's been riddled with anxiety in the past, like how do you slow down when you're kind of in that state, I guess, is the other thing that I wonder. Because when you're in anxiety, you're just like, oh my God, everything's going to go and burn and my life is over and what am I going to do?
Right. And that's perfect, because it's exactly what we're talking about. Because anxiety is fear of the future. So we're trying to be out there. We're trying to be in the future. We're trying to be at the place where we already have the conclusion. And that's what brings on the anxiety, is because unconsciously no, I have to have this figured out. I have to have it figured out. And like, as long as you're worried about not being in the spot in the future of having it figured out, then you're not in the present moment actually doing what you need to figure it out. So it's coming back into the present moment and doing what you can where you are, which is gathering information. And it's also, a good kind of rephrasing of why finding a conclusion, why you need to take that off the table. Because otherwise you just, your anxiety is going to have, your peripheral vision is going to be right on that conclusion. Am I there yet? Am I there yet? Did I figure it out yet? Like, and that's what feeds that anxiety. It's all about the future, wanting to be somewhere where you're not. So it's coming back into the present moment, slowing down and doing what you're supposed to be doing at that time consciously, which is gathering information.
What about having a plan? Because obviously you want to have a plan. Like, if there's something that would cause a great deal of overthinking, I mean, it's probably something that you want to, plan ahead for. If it's a situation where you're trying to get organized and you're trying to put ducks in a row, and that obviously can be something that leads to overthinking and anxiety and stuff. But what is the line of you want to actually have a plan versus, you don't want to dwell in the future?
In planning?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the easiest way to look at it is time frames. It's living consciously, doing things on purpose. Like, a lot of times we'll just be like, okay, well, I have to put a plan together. Well, that's vague. Be more specific. Like, okay, I want to put a loose plan together by the end of the week. Okay, well, then take the I have to put a plan together off the table until the end of the week hits. If you want to put a plan together and you go, it's about, you can look at the big picture for a moment without causing anxiety. It's where we live in the big picture that causes the anxiety. So if you take a step back and you go, okay, like, if it's Monday and I gather information or put a plan together and I have that done by Friday, and then I come to a conclusion on Saturday, is that going to work for this situation? Yes. Okay. Then stay in the moment and put that plan together, or stay in the moment and gather that information for those days. And then on Saturday, you take the next step. And you can do the same thing with any plan that you put together, and it's living consciously and understanding why you're doing what you're doing. I'm putting information together to get here. And when I get here, I'll be able to do this. And then I can see how everything's going to work out. Does that make sense? I mean, I know it makes sense, but there was like, I could feel like there was a little slant to what you were asking that was slightly different than that. So like, we may need to expand on this.
No, that makes sense. I think like I guess I'm kind of this is sort of being a prisoner of the moment situation for me of the stuff going on in my own life. And we talked a little bit about this last week, you and I off air, about like stoicism and like thinking about like the worst possible scenario and having a plan for it and knowing that it wouldn't be that bad. And then from that being able to take, lesser things. So when it's something that, it's not necessarily something that you can have a plan for because it's something that needs to be done by Saturday and it's Monday and you need to figure it out in that time frame, but it's like the big life stuff, you know, um which is like riddled with overthinking. I mean, it's
Yeah.
that's the thing that people, think go to first when they think about overthinking is
Right.
the big life stuff.
So, and Krystal touched on it, and now you're touching on it. You can see how the overthinking is fed by fear and by anxiety of the future. So it's, that's where the worst case scenario comes in. It's like the best thing we can do is get rid of the fear. Just get the fear off the table. And I'm fairly extreme, I've noticed over there, because like I always did this with myself, and then talking to other people, they're like, I don't have to really go that far. And I was like, oh, all right, well, I do, because I'm really extreme. Plus, it's a good teaching point. Like I go all the way to the end. I go worst case scenario. It's like, okay, what if my whole, I'll use my scenario, what if my whole business falls apart and I can't pay my bills and I end up homeless on the street and no place to stay, no place to go. Okay. So, they have like, fortunately I'm in Florida. That helps. It's warm, so I could probably get a tent for $30 right before I know that I'm broke at Walmart. That's nice. I can stay at the Salvation Army, like whatever. I'll live for a little while until I figure it out. I'm sure I can get a job doing something, even if it's minimum wage, doing something, getting some sort of income coming in, maybe rent a room from somebody to get out of the Salvation Army. I have a brain, I have a body, I'm fairly capable. I'm sure I'll do it. And it doesn't hurt that, I have my past to lean on too. I've been unemployed and homeless. So it's like, and I'm thinking a lot clearer now than I was then. And I made it then, I mean, if a whacked out alcoholic, homeless, can figure it out somehow, most of my listeners, I'm sure, can figure it out somehow. We're going to make it. That's the point. The point is do I want all those things to happen? No. Do I mentally and emotionally prepare myself for those things to happen? No. I don't spend that much time on it. I just look at it conceptually and go, if crap really hit the fan and I lost everything, what would I do? Well, I don't know. I'd make it somehow. I'd pick myself up and I'd start moving in a direction, and eventually I'd land somewhere. And that's the biggest piece, is to understand that we all go through difficult times, and we all go through situations where we don't know what the future is going to look like. But worst case scenario, we're going to be standing there breathing and have an opportunity to move, to make other choices and to move forward and get out of the situation. The one constant in life is that it changes. So if you're at the bottom, as long as you're moving, trying something, you're going to get off the bottom. There's no place to go but up, and you can't stay down as long as you're moving. So it's, that's really the worst case scenario. And once you can just be like, okay, well, because your mind loves to live, fear lives in that space where you don't think things all the way through. Oh my God, what if this happens? Oh my God. Oh, that's horrible. That would be horrible. Oh my God. Oh, that'd be horrible. Oh, that'd be horrible. As long as you stay there, you're screwed, because that's where the fear lives. But it's like, oh, well, yeah, okay, it'd be horrible. We got that part. But then what? What would you actually do? Would you get up in the morning like you always get up in the morning? Would you attempt to do something with your life? Would you have breakfast? Like, I mean, your life would go on. Of course, you don't want the horrible thing to happen. But if it did, you would move on. You would keep moving on. And that's the piece that if we never get there, fear can just fester. So if we get there and we go, okay, well, I obviously don't want this stuff to happen. It'd be horrible if it did. But if it did, I would deal with it and I would move forward. Oh, and you can feel like all the tension just fall off and all the fear just subside a little bit. And then you can start dealing with the situation where you are, doing the best without all that fear of the future, of the what ifs.
I'm curious, like if you've ever had someone where you've taken them maybe to that far end of extreme, but then they're like, that gives me more, like that scares me more than the actual situation, and how you kind of help them get out of that.
Yeah, it's basically I go deeper. That's how I I just go, okay, this scares you. Let's really stand in it. What scares you about it? Well, see what you always come across. If you keep going, if you're sitting in fear and you go deeper, what you're going to find eventually is the other side of it. Because fear is an illusion. It's not actually real. Like literally anything could happen in this entire world. I mean, the most horrific thing humanly possible could happen to you, and you would be sitting there after it. And at some point you would go, okay, I guess I have to eat breakfast. Like at some point life moves on, not forgetting about it, not just dismissing it, pretending that it didn't happen. You're changed. I think it's like, it reminds me, like, to me, one of the most horrific things that can happen that I hear is losing a child. Like, I couldn't imagine that. So, so for an extreme, I think this is a good example, because, people always say, oh, I'll never be the same. No, you won't be the same ever. Absolutely not. And you want, loss of a child or other loved ones. But people say, I'll never get over it. And that's a trap to keep them stuck. Like, it's not about getting over it. Of course you're never going to get over it. I mean, certain life situations change you forever. But the mentality of not getting over it usually implies I'm going to be miserable and broken for the rest of my life. And that's the trap it sets. There are people who have lost children and have found happiness. They're out there. It's happened. It's possible. And everybody else, it's possible for other people too. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it would, I'm not saying that you would ever transcend it. It's not about transcending major life changes. Like, I haven't transcended the 20 years I was out there as a freaking dysfunctional jackass. I haven't transcended it. I'm like, that's some of my best ammunition for what I do now. It helps me be who I am now. It's part of me. It will always be a part of me. Even though I don't live that particular lifestyle, I don't forget it. Of course I'm still impacted by it, but now I can use it for good instead of using it for bad. And, that's the type of thing that we can do. It's about, so in these extreme situations, if we sit there and go, oh my God, I'm going to be mentally distraught. Yeah. I mean, In extreme situations, you will. And sometimes it's for months, sometimes it's for years. But somehow we get up and we occasionally shower, we occasionally eat. we might continue working because it helps us. Maybe we don't. Everybody's, path is different and what they need to do to deal with these major situations. But the point is that we keep moving. We keep moving forward one way or another. We keep moving. Even if we're sad for 5 years, well, we're sad for 5 years and we're moving forward in a sad manner for 5 years. Does that suck? Yes, it sucks. But it doesn't mean that it's not happening. And if we stay focused on the fact that, I might be sad for 5 years or 10 years, and we go, oh my God, that would suck. That would suck. It'd be horrible to be sad for that period of time. Oh my God. As long as we stay there, that's the space where fear lives. And it won't be 5 or 10 years. It'll probably be for the rest of our lives because it will stay there. But if we go, yes, okay, I might be sad for an extended period of time, but I'm going to get up and do the best I can that day somehow. Maybe my best will suck that day because I'm in crappy space, but I'm going to get up and do my best. I don't know what my life is going to look like, but it's going to look like my life. I'm going to be doing something. And that's the point. It's, I don't know if I'm expressing it right, but it's just, the point is we're going to be moving on. We're going to be living our lives in some way.
You are expressing it correctly, I think. I don't.
I'm trying like hell. I know I've been talking a while.
Yeah. So, I mean, I agree completely, and I understand everything that you're just saying. Basically, I think that I've been giving my best the last week or so, and it's been pretty crappy. My best has not been great those days. But I've been doing it. But regardless, the transition that I'd like to make into this question is, sometimes I think people can use, and I'm taking this from personal experience again, overthinking as a crutch to not do the simple thinking. And this is what I mean by this. And I talked to Krystal about this the other night. I'm sorry that I'm being vague, by the way, listeners. It's been Glenn, hopefully you can attest. This has been a terrible.
It's been a difficult time for you.
It's been a very difficult time. And
you're still breathing.
Yes.
And you're still moving forward, and you're still
Absolutely.
doing what you need to do.
Absolutely. And I realized that Friday night or Saturday night, or I don't remember when it was, it doesn't matter, but I remembered a couple days ago that I realized that I hadn't slowed down to pray, to just sit in it for a minute. And I had been doing so much overthinking that I didn't slow down to do the simple thinking. And I was using the overthinking and the overwhelm. I was using the overwhelm as an excuse to not slow down enough to do the simple things. So can you talk a little bit to that about how sometimes overthinking is a crutch because we don't want to, overthinking is based in fear, but sometimes I feel like it's easier to overthink than it is to sit in the moment of that simple fear.
Yeah, because it's got a pull. We're masters of distraction. So as long as we can keep moving, keep our mind moving, thinking, doing, then we don't have to slow down and actually deal with what's happening. And because it usually is painful when there's something serious going on. That if we just, it can be painful from an emotional sense. It can be painful from a fear sense, but just stopping and sitting with it and just that's kind of what this exercise I was talking about, worst case scenario, is. Just stop with the constant movement and spinning and thinking, and that's got such a pull. And when you're talking to people who are caught up, and I mean, I still get caught up in this stuff every once in a while, and I can feel the pull. Fortunately it happens a lot less, but I can feel the pull. And when I go, hey Glenn, you should really stop, the first thing my brain goes is, I can't, because I have all this stuff, and it's so easy for your brain to keep you going. That's just the pull of it all. And we have to force ourselves to stop anyway. It's, and I think what helped me the most was really understanding that I am not at my best when I'm moving as fast as I can move. When I'm multitasking and going 90 miles an hour and just going accomplish, I am not at my best. I'm actually at my worst, because I'm just caught up. I'm just going 90 miles an hour. I'm missing things. I don't do things well. It's, when I slow down and really just get back into the present moment, that's when I function more effectively. And when I really understood that, then that lie that said, no, Glenn, you have to keep going. You keep going, keep thinking about that, do, and all that stuff. When that came up, I was like, no, that's a lie. I don't have to keep moving. I have to stop. And so once I could break that pull, then I could, sit and, like you said, just process and deal with actually what's going on. And if there's some fear, I can work through it. If there's some emotion I need to feel, I can allow myself to feel it and then go. And then I can get back to doing what I need to do in an effective manner. But it's like that emotion, we're so trained to not feel emotion that we just distract ourselves constantly from it. And it's, the overthinking and the doing and, no, you don't understand, that whenever you hear yourself say, no, you don't understand to somebody, that's that's usually when you're caught up in overthinking and overdoing and all that stuff. So yeah, it's about hitting the brakes, breaking that unconscious pull of everything you think you need to do. And it can take literally 5 minutes of just sitting there and just processing the fear or some of the emotion that is making you distract yourself in an unconscious way. And then all of a sudden like if you feel sadness and overwhelm and you take 5 minutes and you just allow yourself to feel that and you process it, and emotion needs to be felt. So once it's felt, it transmutes into a different form. So once you feel that, and it's not inside of you pushing you to keep going, you process that emotion. Then you go, okay, I process that emotion. Now, what do I need to do action-wise right now? Oh, I need to do this. Like, you'll go back to your actions in such a calmer, clearer way, because you don't have that unconscious emotion that you're trying to stuff. No, I don't want to feel you. I don't want to feel you. You got to keep going. I got stuff to do. I don't have time to feel you right now. But if you take 5 minutes and you actually allow yourself to feel it and allow it to go, then you can start functioning a lot more consistently and a lot better at higher levels.
I love it. So that's about it for the show. Krystal, do you have any last questions or anything that you'd like to answer on this topic?
I mean, it's something that, as Glenn was talking, kept coming up for me was the word acceptance. And I'm wondering how kind of accepting the situation you're in kind of plays into slowing down and stopping that overthinking.
Yeah. And that's a great word to kind of sum up what I was saying. It's just stop living in the future and in the past and just get into the present moment and just accept the reality of what's happening. You know, most of our suffering comes from resistance to what is. Well, all of our suffering is resistance to what is. So we're the problem, you know, it's tricky with the words, because I don't want people to think that I'm not understanding from a compassionate level. I get it. I know that this stuff isn't easy. I know that you're going to experience emotion and pain. And I know that fear is difficult. I mean, I get all that, but it doesn't change the answer. You know? And I have to keep harping on the answer. And it doesn't mean that I don't understand the compassionate angle of it. I do. It's just, that most people live and talk about compassion the whole time, and they never talk about the solution. And I tend to talk about the solution too much, and maybe I don't put enough attention on the compassion. Okay, everybody, so for the record, I get it. I do have a compassionate side. I know it's not easy, but it doesn't change the solution. So, this is going to be difficult and all that stuff, but you have to sit and practice that acceptance. It's the resistance of the situation that's causing your suffering. So when you accept the reality of what it is, and it's like, okay, this is happening, and process that, allow yourself to feel some of that. And if it's something gigantic, you're not going to be able to feel all of it at once. You're just going to be able to feel a little patch of it. And that's all you can handle. But that's all you need to do, is just release a little patch of emotion at a time, just enough to center yourself, accept the reality of the situation you're in, and then be able to take the action where you are in a place of acceptance. And it's the 3 ways of doing things. You either do them with enthusiasm, the things you like to do. You do them with acceptance. Those are things you might not like to do, but you have to. Or, actions that you need to take while you're going through a rough time. You accept the reality that you're in a rough time at the moment, and then you take those actions anyway. Or the third option is you just don't do it. Anything else causes suffering. So yeah, I think acceptance is a good word to sum it up. We got to get to that place. Just accept the reality that it is happening and stop resisting the fact that it's happening. Then you can start taking the steps necessary.
And I wish that, I wish that there was a guide to this, because I
have a feeling
being
I
a spiritual
segue.
Being a spiritual being having a human experience, I wish somebody would describe it to me in a
smell a segue.
In a really down to earth way. And I just what So so as a horrible segue, if you've never heard this show before, by the way, I do not do those segues like that, or hard sells. But
Sometimes
I'm excited. Hey, listen, I'm a shill. I am excited that I actually have the hard physical copy. This was insane to look at. Like, when I opened the book, I was like, oh my God, it's really Glenn's book. It's a real book. It has Glenn's name on it.
Yeah, so everybody that's listening to this and not watching it on video, Ben just held up real slow,
and dramatic.
In a dramatic fashion.
Also, check out the videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
So Down to Earth, The Spiritual Being's Guide to a Happy Human Experience. It's insane looking at this book. I opened it in the same chair that I was sitting in when we spent what felt like 16 hours on video chat, going through in painstaking detail every chapter of this thing. And I'm like, that was only a couple months ago that we were doing that. And it's here, it's physical, it's in my hand, it's signed. Thank you very much. And it's, it's awesome. So, you can check out the book. You can order it now, the paperback or digital, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. There's a ton of places. Just search for it. Glenn, I'm so excited for you for that.
Thank you. It's fun stuff.
And Krystal, you also did some help with the book with endorsements and stuff. So that's awesome.
I did.
Yeah. Krystal is the newest member to Team Glenn Ambrose.
Yeah, she was very helpful. There was so much stuff to do that I didn't realize, and it was just, I was never going to get it all done. in 2019 for sure.
So
And
you slowed down and stopped overthinking it?
yes.
Also, to be fair, Krystal is the thing that makes it a team. Otherwise, it was just like me and you.
Well,
You can have a
two's
team
the
of two.
Two's.
One isn't a team.
Yeah, so it was just. I mean, but you're the. All right, so I guess there was a team, and she's the. All I know is that my emails never said "Hey team," from you before. They just said "Ben, do this."
Right, because see, that's the dynamic. Is
there it is.
Because like now there's two of you.
Yeah.
So I guess it does make it a team.
Absolutely. So Krystal,
If you don't count me.
Right, exactly. And I've never counted you for anything. Krystal, where can
count
people
you, Glenn.
Krystal, where can people find you? And then we'll do the Glenn segue.
Yeah. If people want to find out a little bit more about me, they can check out my blog at krystaltubbs.com.
Awesome. Glenn?
Yes. Can I help you?
Can you tell people where they can find life coaching and blogs and blah blah.
I guess I can. Yeah, it's real complicated. Get a pen and paper. It's glennambrose.com. Glenn with two N's. You might be able to find the spelling of that name on the podcast you're listening to.
I don't think so.
So yeah, everything's there. My blogs and videos and the book, of course. That the book is the big thing right now. I'm really excited about, and we've got a lot of 5 questions with Glenn. So sign up for my email list, and you get free video versions of 5 questions with Glenn. And we've got, the reason that there's a team, or at least one of the big reasons we have a team now, is because of all the big stuff coming up this year. 2020 is going to be off the chain. So like there's, getting on the email list to be in touch with what's all the things that we're working on already. It's not even halfway through January, and we have multiple gigantic projects in the works. So yeah, this is going to be phenomenal. So get on that list so you can find out and keep track of what's going on. So that's going to do it. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Krystal. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And get on that email list. We will talk with you soon.